City of Las Vegas Audit Oversight Committee. Are we in compliance with the open meeting law?
Yes, we are.
Thank you. Do we have a quorum?
Yes, we do.
In fact, if I'm not mistaken, we have full attendance.
Yes, I do.
For the first time, well, we didn't have a full board the last time. So,
First time this year.
welcome to our new member, CPA Rolo from the City of Las Vegas. She will be joining us. This is a time for public comment. Is there anyone who would like to speak during this time for public comment? We'll take that as a ratification of our intimidation tactic. We will close agenda item 3 and move on to agenda item 4 for possible action. That would be the approval of final minutes by reference of the Audit Oversight Committee meeting of October 24th, 2016. Yes, it seems like yesterday.
I move for approval of it.
It was not. We have a motion for approval. Is there a second? Motion is approved and seconded. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Agenda item number 5 is discussion for possible action on the appointments of the chairperson and vice chairperson for calendar year 2017. Are there any motions?
I'll make a motion to reappoint Chairman Bob Beers and Vice Chairman Bob Coffey.
I second.
I've never actually been appointed or nominated for chair at a meeting I attended. It's always.
Oh, you know what you're going to do.
All right, we've got. Are there any additional motions? All right, we have a motion and a second. All members opposed say nay. That motion passes. Agenda item number 6 is a report for possible action regarding an update of the audit recommendations with the status of incomplete and extended.
Councilman, you also have vice chair.
I think that
We did
motion
the same motion.
included that.
We did.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
All in one. Yes, all in one. Passed.
You're stuck with both of us yet again, right? Good hope for favorable outcome during this spring's election, but that's about it. So, this is our update of the audit recommendations. I presume Rad's going to kick this one off.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is Brad Stelling, the auditor. An update on the audit recommendations with the status of incomplete and extended report has been requested by the audit committee members. I will give that report at this time. If you remember, we have began giving this only twice a year. Every 6 months we give this. So, as you can see from the table that is on the board, the table gives a snapshot of the activity of the incomplete, extended, and non-due recommendations since our last review at the audit committee meeting of July 25th, 2016. The beginning balance indicates the audit recommendation status of July 25th, 2016, 9 incomplete, 2 extended, 26 not due, with a total of 37. Next slide, please. Okay, 2 new reports were added, as you can see noted on the slide.
That
Two of the 2 reports.
Second line detail, not the first line detail.
Department of Building and Safety off-site inspection. If you go to the next slide, it's there were 36 not due recommendations that were transferred to complete. It gives you a list of those departments. The next slide shows you the completed recommendations, and there were 28 of those. Yeah, 28 of those, and that shows the departments that did complete those recommendations during this time period. That's by department. This form is a little easier to look at than what I did last time. You can see one line at a time this way. The next one, this results in a net change of 37 to 46 recommendations is noted on the slide as of today's audit committee meeting. Next slide, please. There we go. And the second table indicates the department or office where the remaining recommendations are located. There are 22 incomplete and 2 extended recommendations. As I review these recommendations, members of the affected departments and audit staff that worked on the audit are present to answer questions. The first one has to do with building and safety, which there's one that's in an extended status. The audit of building safety permits division, dealing with
To
Hanson.
be clear, we are now tracking along with our packets that were at our desks.
Yes,
Correct now?
that's correct.
All right.
If you look at that, you can see, it says page 1 and 2. That'll give you an indication of where that is in that packet that we handed to you, which will show the details on that. It'll show the recommendation, the response, the date, and then behind that, it'll show the entire finding, including the condition criteria, cause and effect, along with on the other side of that, Councilman. Right.
So this dates back to 2007, and I know we're supposed to be patient with the Hanson project, but this is more a new system, isn't it? The resolution for this is kind of a whole new system, and that is the
Yes,
source of the billing.
that's right, and it's supposed to take place, along with the implementation of N4 10. So, that should resolve that issue.
Okay, any questions?
Did you have a question?
Councilman Donovan?
Thank you. Brad, you're not speaking for Hanson, I understand. I have used Hanson a lot for the last 6 years to track the activity in the council offices, to determine the workloads and so on, and we've done a lot of shifting of employees, you know, and our manpower needs to try to meet what Hanson says, and maybe something as crude as simply items on the agenda based on work, but, you know, if the Hanson project is being, well, whatever the team is doing and whatever we call it in the end, anything that can help improve it along the way to give us a little guidance as to our work. Because, for example, in the western town, it's starting to catch on again. We're really, housing is starting to light up and conversions and things like that. So that requires service by a board office. My end of town, with the east side, is whole different. It's abandoned houses and bums living in places they shouldn't, and so it's a whole different metric. But it just simply reads as call for service, or reads as an entry in the computer system. So along the way, watch it to see who's here on that today. I don't want to call anybody forward. Jorge, I didn't mean to late in the meeting. I just simply wanted to say, while it's in front of us, to just remember that it's a very useful thing for many things besides trying to solve problems.
For the record, according to Bob, this Executive Director, Community Development, the Hanson system is being replaced with a new system called N4. Hanson was bought out by N4. The building portion is supposed to go live in this first quarter, so there's one that is not that coming, repairs will be done by then. Building department and fire department will be going live. Planning went on earlier, more on the business life side and the entitlement side, and they'll be coming on later on this year. So it'll be live by the end of the first quarter to get some of these addressed. It'll also allow council reporting by the wards of activity as far as development of things. So it tracks development through from the beginning, conceptual, all the way to the end.
Because my attractive nuisance might be scored the same as somebody's new housing permit. You know, it's a question is it really equal? And so those things are sophistications I'd like to be able to think that we, before the thing is finally done, that we could probably decipher, you know, and add or subtract weight. I thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Any additional questions?
Councilman Calvin, would this be helpful if, I know we're not agenda to do this today, but would you like us to put an item on the next agenda where we could get a report on N4 and also on Hanson? Would that be helpful if we would ask to have a presentation on that?
Well, that'll be early enough after implementation. We'll still be dealing with the salespeople, right?
Good point.
I'm not sure that that would, I don't know, I would be more interested in hearing a 6-month postmortem or a 3-month postmortem after implementation, just to feel for how that's going.
Sounds like it's still gonna be confused.
We're still gonna be looking at a brochure 3 months from now. We're gonna be looking at a brochure, they're gonna be looking at conversion.
It's all right.
If you want to, whether you'll hold that in the back of our mind.
Well, that's a special request, so let's just keep it special and keep it off the agenda until such time as it's riper.
But we would, I mean, it's gonna be a big part of the city going forward, so I'm not sure it's really an audit function yet, because we come in after the battle and stab the wounded.
We try to stab all the survivors.
Yeah. That furrowed brow you saw was Mr. Sanchez's.
Stabbing.
All right, so let's move on to the finance piece.
Yes, the finance has 2 incomplete, that relate to the audit of the city's administration of the sale of scrap metal, which actually is an O&M, but these are 2 findings that came about and are directed for finance to complete, although this is an O&M issue. It's agreement deficiencies.
Mr. Walker, good morning.
Good morning, Councilman. Jerry Walker, Director of Operations and Maintenance. Good morning, Councilman Falcon.
How come this is overdue? By a few weeks anyway.
We've made most of our changes. We're processing some paperwork. I had to order some new containers to store the copper and the brass in. Had this agreement, what we've written is a new city policy for scrap metal. Had that drafted in October, and then I didn't get it forwarded over to admin services until recently. They just reformatted it. I've got to review that. Once that's done, that should account for how operations and maintenance addresses scrap metal at the west and east service centers. That eliminates all the problems which were brought up in the audit. We control it, we track it, we document it. I think before Gary does the procedure we put forward. However, we now have one more minor glitch. One organization would like to go ahead and use a vendor. And so I intended to get away from the vendor activities. I don't like these in the yard. I like restricting access into the east and west service centers. The water pollution control facility, Mr. Mendenhall's here if you have any questions. They would like to utilize a contractor out of the water pollution control facility. In hindsight, I see why they would rather use a contractor. We did offer our services to support it, of course, how we do it we are. Finance is working on another agreement, and so in that agreement, I will approve it, make absolutely sure that it meets the new procedural requirements, which include a clause in a section to deal with contract services for scrap metal collection. And so I have talked with the purchasing and contract provider, and we will make sure that the audit clause and the business license clause are in there, along with indemnification and other agreements which were pointed out in audit. That agreement should be done in a week or so. Gary and I meet on February 2nd to finalize and review all the documents, check out field operations. We'll address any remaining issues at that time.
And I would note for the committee's benefit that the city has recently had a change in the purchasing manager, I believe.
We recently, believe that position is currently vacant. There's an active member in there. I don't see this implementing this. The last contract had a lot of problems with it. We addressed in the procedure what's required in this contract. And again, it was not my intent to use a contract for these services. But I agree with what the water pollution control facility would like to do. And so, although we will not oversee their activities, we will, I added it into the procedure. We will make sure that the clause includes everything, or the contract includes everything that the last contract had over here did not include.
Question, Sherry, okay. So does the sand plant want to be independent because metal recycling fits into the existing contracts for garbage pickup? I mean, whether it be sludge or whether it be other
No,
pickups there?
this goes back to a recycler. And Dave can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it deals more with, they also have a large surplus of cardboard. And so my procedure did not address cardboard, it addressed scrap metal only. And so they went out to get recycled containers for both the scrap metal and the cardboard.
the sanitation plant has,
Yes, I believe they go
Use
through a
lot of
large
hardware,
number
I
of
don't know.
parks, yeah.
that just seems odd. Well, who has a contract for us anyway, and the general contract
For,
for recycling of metal?
a contract was let several years ago.
Who is it? Who's the,
It was,
Nevada Recycling.
and it was actually an agreement, not an actual contract, because they are a vendor that actually pays us. So
okay. And then where are they located?
They're Northwest, I guess.
They're in, they're situated in LA.
Northwest.
Okay, thank you.
And so the audit exposed a series of problems with implementation of that agreement. And it expired in July anyway.
Of
And so-
2016.
Correct. And so at that point in time, we went back to our past practice, with our past practice being, we collected the 2 yards, and we call for pricing whenever those are full, and we solicit 3 different vendors, and we get the best price available to us, and then we use our trucks to haul to the yard that we select. And that way I don't have to worry about indemnification, or injuries, or access into our yards, which I'm very protective of. They don't have to worry about whether they have a business license. They don't have to worry about what the tear weights are, or whether I get them told whether I'm, given the right weight. I don't have to worry about the check, because I'm hauling material over. I get tear weights, gross weights, net weights, and then I get a check at the end of the day. And we collect those weight tickets, we send those with a check to finance, we get a general receipt, everything's documented nice and neat, so in the event of a future audit, we can show that we accounted for the scrap metal we dropped.
Doesn't look like you got dinged on that.
I'm sorry?
No, you didn't get dinged on that either. I mean, it's like, that would be the key point of an audit, the heart of an audit, is what you just described.
I believe all that is in the audit.
Larry Phillips, the senior internal auditor, city auditor's office, that was the whole audit recommendations is what we're addressing. That's what they weren't doing, Jerry is actually doing it now, and I am subject to verification of that.
Since he's basically, since Jerry has changed the business model that was audited, the audit recommendations are specific to his business model, addressing deficiencies, for example, in contracts that will no longer exist, and addressing tests of vendors and contract partners that will no longer exist. So how will we ever clear these audit recommendations?
Mr. Chairman, Brad Snelling, the way we'll do that, once we won't clear, or we won't complete a recommendation on our own. We'll either have evidence that our recommendation has been implemented and the problem is mitigated, or we'll bring it back to you as an issue saying that the circumstances have changed and it's no longer valid, and we'll present that to you and ask you as a committee to close those. So you'll be the one that'll be closing those.
Okay.
That's a cardboard question. I just wanted to know, Dave, why is it? How do we get such a huge buildup of cardboard that we have to have a separate vendor?
Supposed to introduce myself. David Mendenhall, Environmental Division Manager. We've had a no recycling going on, or program coming from July. So we had kind of a vacuum there. And we proceeded, working with purchasing to look into a recycling vendor, because we get a lot of material in the warehouse that results in boxes and cardboard and stuff. And then also metal recycling, we have a lot of metal, and particularly motors that may be on the use that have a lot of copper inside it, with higher value than just regular scrap metal. So there's some.
So
there's more
it's waste
specific.
generated inside the plant. Why do you need your own contract as opposed to being with the city?
Like I said, we proceeded with, we didn't have a contract or anybody doing recycling, so we needed the material done, so we proceeded with purchasing. We didn't actually know this was going on, so. Then the policy came out, and so then there's been emails going back and forth, and then we're doing it vendor under the terms of the policy. So we got 3 different vendors. We bid on that, got the best price, and they have a business license. We're meeting all the things. We don't have the vehicles to haul to this, whatever site of the moment, so we just have a vendor that comes and will service us regularly.
This is Member Headley. Would you go and pick those things up from?
That was the intent.
from the location,
That
so.
was the intent, I think we might have had a little miscommunication talking with
Okay.
Woody. I don't disagree with, they'd like to proceed with the contract, and that sets the format. My procedure was one size fits all, and so, because I didn't want to deal with contract issues, because I won't have the control over this, I was trying to make sure I was reportable, everything that came forward afterwards, I could say, yeah, we had control over the scrap. We can support the WPCF, or if they have a vendor, then it's probably more cost effective for the vendor to provide that service, given that it's, gosh, an hour and a half from our yards, maybe 45 minutes.
Hour and a half at 4 p.m.
Well, we don't see what-
Do we have any other divisions of the city that produce such prodigious amounts of cardboard as these?
All the others will be close enough to the yard, I would expect them to bring their stuff to the yard. Unity would, and if they would like to change models, we would provide scrap metal support at his request. But I can't provide the cardboard, but if we get this agreement, then that sets the basis for the agreement, and it addresses the other auditor issues by directly addressing them rather than excluding them from future consideration. And so I think that's probably a better way to go. And so I think it's better that Dave finishes his agreement. If he changes his mind, would like us to support his scrap, if he has any trouble whatsoever, then we will provide that support to the WPCL.
Shame we can't use that stuff to filter water.
Cardboard?
Yeah.
Use the contents of the boxes.
I wondered if it was wood chips. Okay, any additional questions? Let's take a look at the next set of audit recommendations.
The next set are 10 recommendations.
Thank you both very much.
That are complete from the audit of fire and rescue vehicle maintenance shop. They deal with a number of issues, deficiency in management controls over parts, inadequacy of security over parts inventory, insufficient parts purchasing process, one that deals with inefficient parts purchasing process. Actually, there's 4 of those. Lack of outsourcing oversight. There's 3 that relate to that, and then non-compliance with the city's refrigeration compliance plan. There are, and the department is here, and I think the chief has something to say.
Chairman Beers, members of the committee, William Thomas, Police Fire Chief. I would like to say throughout this process, this audit process, has been some great assistance and recommendations provided to the department in terms of being able to more consistently manage our equipment and processes at the city shop. It's maybe in terms of a definition of what has and hasn't been done, I think we've made significant progress along the lines of developing policies, implementing those policies, and now utilizing those policies in all of these cases within the department. We have them drafted, we have them implemented, tested, our folks are using them all, and had that conversation with Auditor Stelling, and our folks have also talked with Gary Phillips about that. So we feel as though they are complete. We do have another step that we actually are going to go through in terms of formalizing the documents in a different way. We have standard operating procedures in our department, which we are going to now turn these into, but we are using the procedures that we had developed that have been approved by the auditor's office, but what has not been able to take place is there hasn't been enough time now between when the policies and procedures were implemented and the ability for the auditor's office to test those to ensure that they're working. We believe they're working great. It's consistent with the recommendations that have been made by the audit. And so, in our view, those are complete, but they haven't been tested by the auditor's office.
This is Member Headley. Maybe we could hear also from our auditor, because I understand when you work on these issues, you work together to figure out when is the best date that you can complete this. And then you also have to have an opportunity for that control or that process to work and function so the auditor can come in behind the fact and audit that.
Right.
So I guess maybe we can get a report from the audit function, and then also make sure because there's 10 issues here and they're all past due. We'd love to see these things closed as quick as possible.
Right.
So would you, so would everyone.
Right.
what is a reasonable time that we could expect to see these completely closed?
To close it completely, we'd like to have signed and authorized SOPs, so they have to go through 2 unions, they have to go through a process that probably was a little bit longer than we anticipated. The policy procedures that they sent are basically the SOPs. The changeover is minor as far as the mechanics getting that into the SOP. What they're doing, I've tested a few of them right now, and they're following the SOPs, but they're not approved, so that's the main thing. The policy and procedures that they have now, that they submitted to close it, needed to be in the SOP form. And it's just a changeover to the way the unions will accept that.
And so you tested a few transactions.
Yes, and it's working. And I can't close them off till I have, signatures that things have been approved. Otherwise, you'll be asking me, why did I close these off when it wasn't signed off? So we have one like the refrigerant. There are certifications that the users need to have, and the training class is not happening until the future. So I would like to wait until they get certified before I would close that one off too. We did close 2 off on the parks area where we recommended that they consider upgrading the cameras and the surveillance systems. And according to the budgets, they were unable to do that, so we were able to close those off. They're going to look into the future budget. So everything I'm doing, we're testing as we can, but some things we just have to wait for the final approval on the SOPs.
So I'm thinking, it sounds like we should, when we develop at the conclusion of an audit, when we work with management on their response, we should bring to their attention, or I guess ask, how many CBUs are going to have to check off on this? Does that potentially introduce a delay in the potential closure date, right? So that would be something we can incorporate into our post-audit checklists. It's probably going to be common throughout the building and the enterprise. But, so what do you think, Matt?
Mr. Chair, the documents that we produced though are consistent with what was required or recommended initially.
Okay.
And so we did that, and actually they're signed off and they're implemented or being used. There was a point in time though where it was requested from the auditor's office that we convert those now to SOPs, and so we do have a standing process that we go through, but the documents are finalized, in place, being utilized. This conversion to SOPs is really a process issue that it just takes a little bit of time. And in our mind, the procedures were fine. We could use those as well.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Chief, if we took a look at these before we get into the next round of negotiations with firefighters, how many unions are there involved?
We have 2 firefighters.
Is there anything in our position that creates a natural antagonistic that makes it possible that we have to bargain these positions?
No.
Is that what's caused any delay?
No, sir. It really is just a process timing. There is periods of time that are associated with going through the standard operating procedure approval process. It's just calendar days.
Okay, so we don't have a beef with each other.
No.
We have to go through that. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Again, this member had, so again, I want to get to the time frame. I didn't hear anything yet, but if you were to estimate, would you say it would be the end of 2017, or would you say that the next 3 months, 6 months, 9 months?
The process will only take a few weeks.
Okay.
So the next audit committee, they should only be.
By the next audit committee, we would hope.
Assuming no, sir, I'm sorry for
Yep.
interrupting, but
Yep.
I'm not sure how much testing, how much time has to occur between when they are finalized and actually tested by the auditor's office. So actually,
I like the end of 2017 to give everyone
that seems too long to me.
Yeah, it's too much.
That seems way too long.
Right.
I don't know how much testing. I'm not sure how much testing. It's working for us.
Okay.
And they're meeting the requirements of the recommendations.
I think you guys are meeting the spirit of what we're trying to get to. There's
Right.
the physical paperwork that has to go through the process. I understand how that works. So I guess I just look forward to seeing these things close in the near future. But I think you guys are doing a great job, so keep working on that. As long as the procedures are functioning as they have intended.
Well, the
I
bump
think
in the road was getting it in the SOP format.
Yep.
It's probably a misunderstanding, because I'm working from the city's policies and procedures,
Okay.
and they go by standard operating procedures.
Okay.
The materials are the same, all they have to do is put it in the format that gets approval through the unions. And
Okay.
once that's done, timeframe,
Okay, let's work towards getting this cleared to the next meeting. That'd be a great goal.
Okay.
Is this status true for all 5 of the recommendations?
All of the ones that we have
Ten.
indicated as
We
incomplete.
haven't seen the second slide yet. Brad?
Here's the first slide. Mr. Chairman, Rand Snelling, except for the very last one on there that has to do with the refrigerant, which,
Oh,
Yeah,
Gary
we're just
Phillips
training.
talked about.
Yeah,
We're
I would agree with
going
that.
for a license and training for that. Is a license or,
well, it's EPA has to come in
okay.
and then I think the environmental people might be changing their compliance plan, but that shouldn't stop getting those certified. But they're doing the process right now, and that's fine.
Once again, Rand Snelling, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, we attempt to be cautious in letting departments know that they should build enough time in. But as you can see, we have a number of incompletes. The incompletes get here because they don't get it done in that amount of time. So we will redouble our efforts in trying to make sure that the dates are as realistic as they can be without being too far out. I think we will redouble our efforts and make sure that we encourage the departments to think forward and what obstacles they have to overcome.
Thank you.
The next item, slide number 10, has to do with information technology. This is related to the Audit of Public Works Environmental Division, management controls over purchasing tools and inventory. This is at least somewhat similar to the situation that we had related to operations and maintenance and the finance department. These are 2 findings that relate to IT problems that we found in this particular audit, and have been assigned to the IT department to address, dealing with software interface, one address ongoing WAN Oracle interface problem, and document guidelines for the use of WAN for proper functioning interface. Those 2 issues relate to the IT department.
I forget what the acronym stands for, WAN. What's WAN?
Mr. Brennan, all of these WAMs stand for?
He's way back there. Work, asset management.
Work Asset Management.
Reprogramming.
You guys are talking acronyms.
Okay. What do you think, Mr. Sherwood?
Michael Sherwood, IT Director, and to my right is Chris Craig, Business Relationship Manager. We went through a process of working on the current interface as is, trying to make the corrections. Roughly in November, it was discovered that the current interface needed to be rewritten from scratch. That was completed, and right prior to the holiday season. We've been working with our partners in Public Works. They've started testing it. We have seen some anomalies, which we'll need to go back in and correct errors through the testing process. I would say over the next 6 months, we should be to a completion of the project itself.
Are the anomalies more related to the interface between the software and the dispensary device, or more related to the interface and the back-end software?
The interface issues or anomalies or errors or bugs, whatever we'd like to refer them to, is more with the back-end database and the code based on the expected input that we're getting from the external system.
Do you have a new ETA, or do you have a current ETA?
Within the next 6 months, we would believe this to be concluded. Right now, we're testing. We would think over the next 35 to 60 days that would give Public Works additional time to test, provide us feedback. They've given us some preliminary feedback already on some errors they've encountered. That allows us to get the developers back in, make any additional corrections to that interface, perform some additional testing, and then complete our documentation, which I believe is item 2, which is to complete documentation of the process itself. So both issues to be completed within the next 6 months.
So it sounds like we have dispensed with the cots and we're building our own. Do we have an ownership interest in that? Can we perhaps resell that down the road to other large municipalities and water treatment plants, their integration with their back ends and their dispensary tools?
I would think no. It's customized pretty much to our system, the way our software works. I mean, maybe the documentation, the process would be helpful in others that do this same process. But for the most part, it's specific to the city of Las Vegas. It's our systems.
Any members? All right, no additional questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item is municipal court. Has one extended, is related to the procedures for form minimum county standards checklist for Nevada courts. And this has to do with areas of non-compliance with mass, address the identified areas of non-compliance with accounts receivable standards.
Refresh our memory of what MAS stands for.
Minimum accounting standards set by the Administrative Office of Courts, the Supreme Court.
Supreme Court promulgates administrative standards.
Minimum accounting
Administrative
standards.
standards, okay. So how are we doing and why aren't we done?
This is one that we had to basically upgrade our CMS to comply with that standard.
CMS being,
Our case management system,
okay,
which was originally targeted before go-live date July 1 of this year, which we pushed back minimum of 6 months, potentially a year on go-live. However, I just did get a copy of the new minimum accounting standards last Friday, and frankly, I think they've changed a lot of the standards regarding how to track accounts receivable that may actually bring us into compliance. I'll have to review those standards with Mr. Snow.
okay. And is that scheduled? Probably not, since it just happened on Friday.
Yeah, I literally haven't reviewed it yet. I want to make sure that's on track. There was some preliminary discussions with the work group that I was part of, and I believe that was to be included in that final draft.
Thank you. Dana, okay, we get a lot of money from the AOC. That's one acronym I remember well.
Yes, sir.
For our specialty courts, and we get our division of administrative assessments. I don't know what else we depend on for accuracy. So what are they asking for that we, in essence, are not providing to them to their satisfaction? Because they're going to the session in a week and they've already got their teeth out, knives sharpened. What, are we a meal up there?
No, thank you, Councilman Cobb and Chairman Beers. Again, Dan Levac, Municipal Court Administrator. The minimum accounting standards are essentially promulgated by the AOC in conjunction with all the courts. They look at how courts operate and what appropriate accounting standards are and procedures. It's not just about accounting standards. In promulgating, they also look at standards set by the National Center for State Courts. As the panel may or may not be aware, after Ferguson and other things going on in the country, there's been a shift in the emphasis on receivables and a kind of refocusing on compliance. Are defendants doing the things they are told to do? Particularly relative to receivables, there's an emphasis on providing alternatives to simply providing fiscal money. So, for instance, we have a very robust work program where defendants do work downtown with the Fremont Street Experience or Goodwill or other areas in the city. So the emphasis now is making sure people are paying their pound of flesh, as it were, not necessarily how they're paying their pound of flesh. The old minimum accounting standards was really looking at the age of receivables, and that was an item that we could not track with our own case management system. Essentially what happened with the old case management system, if somebody was ordered to pay $100 5 years ago and came in and made a payment yesterday, that account would look current as of yesterday. So it wiped out
Yeah,
all
we got a lot of
the
embarrassing
receivables.
press on that.
Yes,
And so, yes, and it appeared that they could pay $1 a year and still stay current.
correct.
Also, we had a number that was huge, like $30 million outstanding, if I'm not mistaken, but we knew we could not collect more than a few million.
Correct. A substantial amount of that has been wiped off, essentially, the books. We've looked at old warrants, which were considered uncollectible, and essentially closed those out and eliminated those receivables off our books.
So somebody got passed. They didn't know it, but they did.
Correct, sir.
Okay. All right. I'm glad that that's cleared up. That wasn't worth the bad publicity we were getting for appearing to try to collect stuff we could not collect.
Yes, sir.
Brad, did our audit look at the policies and procedures regarding writing off uncollectible fines?
Brad's building, Councilman Beers, I'm gonna ask Brian to come up. He's the auditor that actually worked on that. As I remember, there was a whole series of questions that dealt with the minimum accounting standards related to receivables. I don't know if that was one of them.
Specifically, since the solution to having large volumes of old uncollectible debt was to write them off. Have we done any procedures looking at the policies and procedures on writing off of old debt or any debt?
Brian Smith, Senior Internal Auditor. Of course, this audit was done back in 2010, and the minimum accounting standards have changed at least once since then, and now I hear that there's another version. If I recall correctly, there was a section in the minimum accounting standards that addressed the collections, and to be honest with you, I don't remember all the details of what those standards are, but I know the standards have improved a lot since 2010. In fact, the guidance that's given to auditors in performing the audit of the minimum accounting standards is a lot more detailed. It actually gets to, it details out the sample sizes that are required for the auditors. Not sure that answers your question, but I'd be glad to share with you what those standards were.
No, that's fine. Any additional questions?
No, we're fine. Did any other, cough on here, did any other municipalities or counties run into the same problem we did over the aging of accounts receivable and the determination what to do with them?
From what I understand, it's a real challenge for all of the courts, let alone, in fact, I think our court is really held with high respect by the state for what we're able to do. But accounts receivable, just the nature of court receivables is a difficult thing to handle because of the nature of the receivable, with the judge being able to waive that fine. There's a question of when that amount becomes truly receivable.
Yes, they do levy fines, which are meant to get somebody's attention, and then once they've got their attention, they reduce them.
Right.
That is always in the process. Yeah.
So that's the challenge for the courts is classifying these fines and fees. You might be able to add some more to that.
Thank you again, Daniel Levac, Chairman Beers, Councilman Coffin. Essentially, receivables are kind of this, in the courts, is kind of this fiction in that we never know whether somebody's actually going to pay. They could die tomorrow and then that debt is discharged. I mean, that doesn't carry forward to their estate or any other members. Criminal debts are not discharged in bankruptcy. They don't go towards an estate. Similarly, if somebody goes into warrant, they may or may never get picked up on it. Our warrants at the municipal level are essentially only executable within the state of Nevada, and even then, generally only within the county, Clark County. So if somebody's stopped outside of Nevada, they really don't care about our warrant. They're not going to arrest somebody or hold somebody on our warrant.
Committee members? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The last department 5 are related to the audit of city administration over sale of scrap metal. I think that we probably discussed those earlier. I think those are resolved unless the department wants to add anything to that. The final 3 are related to the audit of compliance with the Sports Park Development Management Agreement. They relate to non-compliance with the management agreement provisions and improvements needed in the annual land license fee process.
Jerry Walker, Director of Operations and Maintenance. Our intention on the Sports Park Development and Management Agreement, I think you may recall, this is a very old agreement, which certainly could use an update, and some more explicit language and some changes in the language. We met with the contractor in early December, and met with the contractor representative, operator representative, and he was amenable to everything we said, amenable to a rewrite, amenable to the concerns we had, and we haven't heard from him since. We're going to go ahead and rewrite the contract at this point in time, forward it to their attention. It was always our intention to address most of these issues through contract modifications. Some we put earlier dates in, thinking we could take some interim steps. On the basis we thought we were moving ahead, we are moving ahead with the contract. With respect to the residency provisions, which are 3.2 and 3.3, we just don't see a need for that clause in the contract. It's our intention to delete it. And so we haven't taken any other steps. When we do our draft, we will delete it. It is something of benefit that we can put on the table as we ask for things to our benefit. If we're not able to reach agreement, then we will reconsider and we will enforce the terms of the contract. We just don't see a benefit of enforcing residency requirement checks. And so it's our hope to take it out of the contract. That's why we haven't moved on that item yet. Same with the next item, the land use fee. It needs to be clarified in the agreement. It's not very well written, so how that should be calculated. We don't intend to either raise or lower the amount that we've been collecting, but we do intend to rewrite the clause.
Any questions, committee? I was out there a week ago, on Monday, about 5 o'clock. And I almost needed a sledgehammer to get my way through all the kids and the parents.
That's good news.
It was hopping. It was really a pleasure to see.
That's great news, and I'm happy to hear that.
Screaming children in soccer.
Is there, I may ask a question. Is the sports park or any other facility under your jurisdiction possibly targeted for potential use as a training facility or as a auxiliary training facility for any of the professional sports? You look at hockey, you think of maybe football, but hockey is the one that's here. There's ice there, right?
There's no ice.
Or is there no ice there?
Except maybe early tomorrow morning.
Well, you know your word better than I do. We don't get ice.
It started out as an ice facility, but now it's indoor soccer. So they've taken out the ice and laid down some artificial turf.
And then there is no need. That would seem to be right. Doesn't look as much like artificial turf anyway.
And real turf on the outside. No, there's some artificial turf on the outside too. Is it all artificial turf on the outside? Except for the paintball part, which is dirt and wood.
And there's a soccer team that's hosted there, I believe. There's
Legends. Las
Legends.
Vegas Legends.
Yeah.
I believe the current reigning champion of their league. But it might have been, I might be a year behind here, I'm not sure. Questions, Lee? Okay, thank you very much. And that closes agenda item number 6. Brings us to item number 7.
You can make a motion to accept the
Do we need
report?
to make it? I don't know if we
No.
need to accept that
No?
report.
Okay.
just making sure Laura said no.
Squash down.
Number 7 you do.
Okay.
And the 6 you do.
Number 7 will require a motion, right?
Yes.
And that is discussion for possible action on current audits and projects.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Radsdale, City Auditor. Currently, the following audits are in process. Economic and Urban Development Parking Services, the lead auditor is Nancy Beatty, and it's in the fieldwork stage. Office of Cultural Affairs Artist Contracts, Brian Smith is the lead auditor, and that's in the reporting phase.
And I understand that they showed that draft to the new director of cultural affairs before she hired on.
And she still took the job.
And she still took the job.
That's encouraging.
It is encouraging. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Fine. You ready?
Yep.
Office of Communications, mailroom and print shop. Brian Smith and James Burnett are auditors on that. Is in the fieldwork stage. Human Resources Insurance, Rad Snelling is in the planning. IT Inventory, Rad Snelling is in the planning. Operation and Maintenance, Durango Hills Golf Course, it's a follow-up on prior audit recommendations, and that's in the reporting phase. Municipal Courts, House Arrest, Gary Phillips is the lead auditor, and that's in the planning phase. And this concludes my report. Chair.
Mr. Coffin?
That's on the, Brad, on the HR, on the insurance portion, I got a letter on the weekend, actually, Saturday, that said that due to an error in a system error, that on the voluntary life insurance, premiums would have to be changed considerably. Some of them doubled. I'm just curious, if we detected a system error, did we, or did an insurance carrier, MetLife maybe, detect an error and decide to back charge us, or to, maybe it hasn't come to your attention yet. It was a funny thing. It was a letter dated January in 2017, no date. But it said that on the 1st of February, things have changed. Well, so it didn't seem very professional. It seemed like somebody was doing the minimum amount of work to get the notice out. And maybe not adequate notice. But in any event, I was just curious if we had found it.
Red Snelling, City Auditor. Councilman Coffin, I will look into that and get an answer back to you and the rest of the members on the committee. I don't know that. I don't know the answer to that at this point.
Well, thank you. It's not a high priority.
Okay.
Additional questions, maybe? Then I would accept the motion at this time, if there are no additional questions, to approve the report on current audits that Brad just moved.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All members opposed say nay. Motion passes. Brings us to agenda item number 9.
Brian, do we need motions?
No, it does not.
I'm sorry. We don't need seconds.
You don't.
Oh, we don't need seconds? All right.
What about
We have-
thirds?
For the record.
I know you're used to doing it, so I let it go.
We
So.
had them anyway. All right. So this brings us to agenda item number 8, discussion of possible action regarding recommendation concerning authorization for the city auditor's office to assist the Southern Nevada Health District on certain audit matters. Committee, this is an item that I asked to be placed on the agenda. I, in my other duties with the city, serve as the chairman of the board of the Southern Nevada Health District, and they have requested some advice. And pretty timely fashion, we provided it. This authorizes the provision of that advice and authorizes any additional advice going forward. I don't believe there's a lot of resources required on our department. It's more intellectual property kind of thing than actual hands-on field work kind of thing, I believe. And with that, is there any questions?
I move for approval of item 8.
Could I ask one question, Mr. Chair? Would you need an interlocal agreement from the city attorney's office?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I believe so. I don't think that the level of activity rises to that level of documentation. We have a motion for approval. All members opposed say nay. And that motion passes. That brings us to agenda item number 9, discussion for regarding topics for future agenda items by the Audit Oversight.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, one more thing. I'm assuming that's going to go to the city council at some point, so we'll need to, do you know when
If
it-
you believe that it should go to the city council,
Yeah.
that's fine.
I guess we'll need to figure out a date.
And agenda item number 9 is an opportunity for board members to bring up ideas and concepts or new audit thoughts. Anyone? Mr. Headley, usually you have
I
something.
normally have something
Yeah,
like
they
that.
do. Yeah, they do.
You wanna introduce yourself and we'll back there?
Sure, if you'd like me to.
Fire away.
My name is Melanie Rollo. I have worked in public accounting for 12 years. I'm currently with a local CPA firm called Ellsworth and Stout. I've been with them for 9 years, almost 9 years. And I previously worked at McLaury here on 4th Street in Vancouver, America for a few years before that. I received my master's from Southern Utah University. I have lived here in Vegas for almost 12 years. My husband is actually a police officer with Metro, and we have 4 children, 3 boys, and we just had a little girl. She's 18 months old. So that's me.
I'm having an awful lot of fun when I was getting a girl granddaughter.
Oh, grandbabies are so much better.
You know why grandparents and grandsons are so close?
What?
The comment.
Yes, there you go.
All right, we'll close agenda item number 9, go on to agenda item number 10. It's time for citizen participation. If anyone dares, step forward. And Joe, you want to tell us anything going on? All right, we don't have any citizens stepping forward for citizen participation. That brings us to agenda number 11. Do I have a motion to adjourn? We have a motion. All members in favor? Aye. Say aye.
Aye.
We're done.